close till I get up.
Hello everyone, good day to you all. I am Benedict Cabana, first BSCT student at the Western Institute of Technology. I advocate the human rights this pandemic. Many Filipinos bullied and discriminated because of the COVID-19. Since March 11, 2020, when the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a global pandemic, governments around the region have imposed strict measures to try stem and spread of the virus. In the midst of serious emergency or public health threats, restriction on some of rights can be justified under international human rights law, including those that result from the imposition of a quarantine or some limits on freedom of movement. However, careful attention to non-discrimination and principles such as transparency and respect for human dignity can help ensure effective human rights response. The world is facing tremendous challenges. Many are demonstrating their commitment to protecting human rights through pandemic. Others should be encouraged to do so. We need to use the social media platform to draw attention to key human rights issues in the country during COVID-19 pandemic. International human rights law guarantee everyone the rights to highest attainable standard of health and obligates governments to take steps to prevent threats to public health to provide medical care to those who need. Human rights law also recognize that in the context of serious public health threats and public emergencies threatening the life of the nation, restriction on some rights can be justified when they have a legal basis, are strictly necessary based on scientific evidence of neither arbitrary nor discriminatory in application, of limited duration, respectful of human dignity, subject to review, and proportionate to achieve the objective. The scale of severity of COVID-19 pandemic clearly rises to the level of public health threat that could justify restriction and certificate rights such as those that result from the imposition of quarantine or isolation limiting freedom of movement. At the same time, careful attention to the human rights such as foster an effective response amidst the turmoil and disruption that inevitably results in times of crisis, and limit the harms that can come from the imposition of overly broad measures that do not meet the above criteria. These are the checklists from the Commission of Human Rights Philippines. Number 1, freedom of expression and access to information, quarantine lockdowns and travel bans. Number 3, the right of women. Number 4, the rights of people in detention. Number 5, the rights of health workers. Number 6, the right to education. Protect freedom of expression and access to critical information means government have an obligation to protect the right to freedom of expression, including the right to seek, receive, impart information of all kinds, regardless of frontiers. Ensure quarantines, lockdown, and travel bans comply with the rights norms. Means restriction on rights for reason of public health care or national emergencies must be lawful, necessary, proportionate. Restrictions such as mandatory quarantine or isolation of symptomatic people must at minimum be carried out in accordance with the law. Protect people in custody in institution means states have an obligation to ensure medical care for those their custody at least equivalent to that available to general population and must not deny detainees, including asylum seekers or undocumented migrants, equal access to preventive, curative, or palliative health care. Ensure protection of health workers means government have an obligation to minimize the risk of occupational accident and disease, including by ensuring workers have health information and advocate protect clothing and equipment. This pandemic give us many problems, but we must help each other in this pandemic. Don't discriminate our fellow countrymen because we are all Filipino. Be responsible and understandable. Many changes that happen to the world, but the spirit of Filipino is there. This pandemic will end soon. Just keep moving and stay alive.